What is going on, everybody? Jay here. Welcome to Square Pegs. Thank you for clicking on the thumbnail. If you're new here, appreciate you stopping by. If you're a returning viewer, glad you're back. Today we are talking about a really interesting accessory from the company Alxum. So let me introduce you to the Alxum Switch multi-port card reader. Now, you'll notice that this is kind of staggered. Looks pretty neat there. So the front 4 slots here are actually card readers. Those are ones that are going to actually be able to hot swap to by pressing this little button here. And the ones back here are just storage, which I think is kind of clever. But how does it perform? How does it connect? How does it work? Does it work? Let's find out. So this is the Alxum Switch multi-game card reader, multi-port. You see here, I'll flip this over so it's readable. You see here, this actually holds 8 different cards, 4 of them to actually be in for the different game slots, and then 4 for storage, which is pretty cool. Got a nice little clicky button on top, which I'm assuming is going to switch between the different game card slots. This is what comes in the box. Box is pretty small. Not a whole lot of contents inside. You get the card reader, and you get a USB-C card. Let's see how easy this is to attach to a dock and work with. All right, so we're gonna start off with the classic dock from the original Switch release, and this is pretty great. So what this does is it just kind of slides onto the top here, and that's pretty much the end of the story. You drop your Switch into the dock, insert the card reader, which clips in just like a normal Switch cart does. And then connect your USB-C to the back of the card reader, and then into the side of the Switch. And you're good to go. Now the games plug in to the card readers just like they would on the Switch. So you have the normal kind of ratcheting spring-loaded stuff, which is pretty nice. And then you have the 4 storage card slots, which are not spring-loaded. They just kind of squeeze in there and use friction to hold the card in place. It's kind of a solution in search of a problem, but I'm not gonna lie to you. Kind of intrigued by the idea of putting the games I play the most into this thing and then just kind of hot swapping in between the new titles that I want to try out in the storage slots. Let's see how this looks on the OLED dock now. And everybody knows the sleek, sexy curves of the OLED dock. And we're not gonna go through the whole thing again. We're just gonna see how this works on the back of the OLED dock, and much like the original Switch release, just slides on, put in the card reader, plug in your power cord, and you're ready to go. Now let's see how this thing performs. All right, what's going on, everybody? So yeah, we are checking out the multi-port Switch game card reader, and as I said in my intro, I think this is a bit of a solution in search of a problem, but I've also had some time to think about it since I initially recorded that unboxing portion to show off how it connects, and I think I've actually hit upon what the best selling point of this device is. And if you have a family that plays a lot of games together, or you have a regular game night where you have friends come over and you're doing a lot of multiplayer games, like if you're doing something like Clubhouse games or Switch Sports together, or even Ring Fit Adventure, if you're doing something like that, this is a fantastic option to keep all those games at the ready, so you don't have to go find them in their cases. You don't have to make sure that someone walks away with them or they're missing in someone else's Switch somewhere. You can just keep them all in this device, and that works pretty well, and I'm pretty impressed by that. But I wanted to show you exactly how the games performed and make sure that everything loaded up, and I will be honest with you, this is now the 3rd time I've recorded it because I struggle with OBS. But we're going to take a look at some stuff real quick. We're going to show you some of the different features of the device, and then we'll wrap things up and I'll let you know my final thoughts. Now, first things first, one of the things I really like about this device is that it has a tactile button on it to actually switch the games. And I want to show you like my particular favorite part about this tactile button, because I'm a simple man. I like shiny things. And we're going to take a look now at when I press this button. So as you press the button, each slot has a different color. I think that's pretty great. That's awesome. Isn't that great? A bunch of different LED colors. I think that's fantastic. Right now, though, we are going to hop into game. We're going to take a look at Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp, make sure this loads up, and then we'll hop through and I'll show you a couple other experiments I wanted to do along the way as well. So when we go in, really nice, it loads up right away. I will say that Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp does have some fairly long loading times, which is moderately disappointing, but it's only when you first go into game. Like, going into a level is pretty quick, but that first load into game is a little bit brutal. Like, you're going to see this orange tank just kind of spinning its treads for a while. Now, one of the things I wanted to try is I wanted to see what would happen when I swap while the game is in action. So what it should do is it should give us a card read error or an error saying don't take your card out while the game is in action. So let's see what happens right now. And as you can see there, software was closed because the game card was removed. But as you can see, when the card is removed, you press the button, it is going to swap over to the next game on the list, which is Final Vendetta. If you haven't played Final Vendetta, it's a fantastic beat 'em up. One of my favorites on the platform, actually. Like, if you're a fan of Final Fight, if you're a fan of Streets of Rage, this game is absolutely for you. I want to show you performance-wise how this game looks, because, I mean, there is an opportunity. This is going through a different device that it could not read 100% appropriately, or it might be a little bit slow, but from what I've seen so far, this is actually performing admirably well. And yeah, the physical for this is dirt cheap on Amazon, so if you are at all are interested in this, definitely worth checking out. Yes, you're going down, Cooper. This is Douglas. Shout out to Douglas and Kate from the Cutting Edge. If you guys remember the hockey playing and figure skating movie from the early 90s from Disney. I always liked that movie because you didn't really get hockey in a lot of stuff other than Mighty Ducks back in the early 90s. So whenever my favorite sport was shown off, it always made me happy. Even if it wasn't, you know, even kind of accurate to how things would go. But yeah, this is a pretty neat device that does some pretty neat stuff. And this actually, as you can see, performs really well. One of the other tests I wanted to do was see how a multi-game cartridge did. And the best one right now for that is the Final Fantasy Pixel Remasters. So, as you can see here when we swap over, it does show all 6 games immediately. And it does show that the card is accessible for each of them. So the cartridge is something that you can select. I'm not going to go into game. If you're curious at all about these games, I've got a video on screen right now. You can click the card that I ranked every single Final Fantasy game available on the Nintendo Switch, including all 6 games available on the Pixel Remasters. And yeah, I mean, spoilers, they're all great, so worth checking out. One thing I wanted to check, though, was what would happen when I pop a cartridge out. And the easiest thing to see here is we'll go to Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. We're going to take it out of the reader, and you're going to see it updates automatically to show that it's no longer in there. I will say, I think the only feature I don't like about this so far is that the spring-loaded slot that you have to put the cartridge in on the device, it is a little tight. So it doesn't do any damage to the cartridges, but just be aware of that. Like, my spidey sense is tingling on it a little bit. No damage to the cartridge or the labels or anything like that, but just, man, moderately concerned. But yeah, we're going to pop in right now. This is Persona 5 Royal on the Switch, which is shockingly good on the Nintendo Switch. We're going to pop this one in now, and you should see that this will automatically update to show the new active card that was just put in. As you can see there, Persona 5 Royal automatically queues up. And yeah, that's pretty great, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. This is a really neat device. It's a really well-designed device, too, which I really like. But let's get over to the camera now, and I will give you my final thoughts on the multi-port Switch game card reader. All right, so final thoughts on the Alxum multi-port Switch game card reader. Again, I think it's kind of a solution in search of a problem, but the solution it lands on is brilliantly done. It functions incredibly well. This could be a gimmick, and it kind of is, but it's a gimmick that works, which I really like. And the kind of use case that I landed on that I explained to you guys during the video of if there are games that you play regularly, or if you play a lot of multiplayer games with your family, keeping those kind of in the storage section, or even keeping those on 3 of the normal game card slots is kind of nice. Being able to hot swap just by pressing a button without having to go fumble through and take a card out and put it back into a case and take it out and put it back in is pretty nice. Again, it's a gimmick, but it's a gimmick that works. This isn't like the Power Glove where it was a gimmick that was terrible. This is actually pretty well functional and is actually really nice. And want to comment on this. Like, the heft of this is surprisingly nice. It could have been made really cheaply, and it's not. It's a really, really nice device. If you guys are interested in picking one of these up for yourself, the link is in the description below. It is an affiliate link, so if you're interested, this does help me out somewhat financially, but no hit to you. You guys will just have a couple of those cents that Amazon would normally get come to me, and I certainly won't say no to that. But let me know what you think about this. Is this something where you look at it and you go, that's completely unnecessary, or do you see kind of the genius behind the gimmick? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, folks, I've been Jay. Appreciate you guys stopping by. So until next time, remember to play more games, stay square, and take care. I'll talk to you soon.